and turned and walked through Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. Then back into Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and Pennsylvania so far. And then probably by tonight I'll be in New Jersey, state number 22.
And if you were wondering why Shields decided to make the trek, he says it's not to raise money or for any cause, but just for the love of adventure. Now you probably have a lot of questions like where does he sleep and what is in that cart?
The look of Easton, I don't know, the rolling hills or the way the architecture just incorporates the landscape. That cloud is particularly fluffy.
The 29-year-old Utah native has seen a lot of towns in the last 422 days. You see, that's how long he's been zigzagging across America.
I walked up to that westernmost point of the country. It's in Washington State. It's called Cape on the Olympic Peninsula. And ever since then, I turned around and have been walking towards Maine.
But it's not just walking, it's pushing a cart with his essentials.
Once in Wyoming, I walked between Shoshone and Casper, Wyoming, which is a 100-mile gap with no towns in between. And so this enables me to carry 4 gallons of water plus a tent and sleeping bag and food.
He's also got solar panels to power his electronics so he can keep his growing social media following updated. Some of them have offered lodging along his route, while others simply say hi, sign his cart, and add to his collection of stickers and badges. Shields says he gets a lot of questions about his journey. The most frequent is why.
I just wanted to go on a walk. It's just a really strong sense of curiosity about the world.
Shields says he's not sure when he'll get to Maine because for now he's just enjoying his journey, taking a page from the Declaration of Independence.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Shields says ultimately this happiness will be shared in a book or documentary. Jackie Ferris, 69 News.
Okay, I'm sitting here today with, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell everybody about yourself. Tell us who you are.
My name is Isaiah Shields, and at the moment people sort of know me best for my walk that I'm doing. I'm walking across the country. The main idea is to walk from the westernmost point of the country to the easternmost point of the country. Points found respectively in Cape in Washington and the West Quoddy Head Lighthouse in Maine.
Okay, and where exactly did you start?
So I started just from my driveway. I lived in Provo, Utah at the time.
Okay.
So I walked from Utah to Washington first, and that took like 3 months, 1,500-ish miles.
Okay.
And ever since then, which was last August, I've turned around and now I'm headed to Maine. So I kind of went like a meandering route. I hit Montana, walked down to Texas, then across to Florida, and ever since then I've been kind of walking up the eastern shore to Maine.
Okay. I am curious, when you were younger, Isaiah, did you know that you would be doing it?
No.
When did you think about it? When did you start thinking about it?
The idea first crossed my mind, I think in June-ish of 2020.
Okay.
And there was nothing specific. I hadn't just watched Forrest Gump. I get that reference enough.
Okay.
I've seen it, but that wasn't like the impetus for it. The best I can recollect is I was just sitting at my desk at my office. I used to work in corporate finance.
Did you really?
Yeah. I just had the idea of going on a really long walk. And I filled in all the rest of the details pretty much at random, just arbitrary. I thought it'd be fun to walk coast to coast. I was like, I'll just give it sort of a structure. And then I know you can walk coast to coast in the coastal United States, the continental United States. If you want to go from like Southern California to Southern Florida in like 2,400 miles.
Yes.
And sort of to get away from that, just to make it so that my mindset wasn't about like finishing the walk, I was like, well, I'll make it the longest possible instead of the shortest possible. So I Googled what's the westernmost point instead of like the least western point and the easternmost point. That sort of just became the idea.
Wow. What do you think is the biggest impact you're having on? I'm curious.
I don't know, because it's all sort of just hit me randomly. I mean, I knew I wanted to document the journey from the beginning, mostly because I wanted to remember it. I've long been fascinated by how capable the human brain is of forgetting things. You'll watch a video from 10 years and you're like, I completely forgot about what my mindset was like during those years of my life, or whatever the case may be. And so I wanted to document it, but mostly just for myself. And so like my family could follow along and make sure I was safe in that case. But it's sort of spread farther than I expected it to or intended to. And I don't know, but I think people are just sort of getting a first-hand glimpse of the country. They're sort of finding out, like I am, that the country is not as dangerous a place as sometimes we're led to believe.
Yes.
There's just a lot of good people out there living their life.
There is.
Yeah.
And I think the world needs a lot more Isaiahs, because I think that you're someone,
I appreciate
I'm just
it.
going to tell you, I think you're someone who finds beauty right around you. I think you're going to find that you probably are, but you answer me. I think you're collecting a lot of wisdom, which is priceless, along your way. And I don't think you get that so much in college that you can pay for that. I think you get that from talking to people. I know throughout my journey so far in my life I have. Is that what you're finding? You're getting some of that along the way?
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
Talking
I mean,
with people.
there's something very different about like reading about something, and you
Yes.
can know it's true technically, like in your head,
Yeah.
and then seeing it firsthand is just a whole different experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't relate to this, but I can only imagine it's like reading about like a natural disaster and having it happen to you. It's just, there's a visceralness and a tangibleness when you've actually seen the floodwaters come in.
Yeah.
And I lived in the Philippines from 2012 to 2014.
Yeah.
And when I was there, the super typhoon came and hit the island I was living on, and to see that firsthand, and it's just different. So yeah, this is kind of a similar experience in that I've read about all the cities of our country and different places, but to walk through them firsthand, to see people living their lives, and just realizing that most of them aren't full of hatred for each other. They're just going about trying to make a living for themselves, trying to understand what
Yes.
matters in life and what's worth doing.
Yes, to collect those things, I think you're going to come out of it well, how wouldn't you? A different person. And I don't know, I don't know if I'm right about this either, but I look at someone like you, and I think too, for you to also, I think that you also are someone who is able to also collect yourself in a different way and be able to find peace in what God has provided us in some way. I don't know if you're that person spiritually, but to be able to find it, like you say, you find beauty all around you. We can, and I think that's what the world needs right now too. If you understand what I'm saying, we don't need to sometimes always take our children to Disney or things like that.
Sure.
We can take them right outside,
Yeah.
a walk and things, and we can find beauty that way. I find beauty that way and my peace that way. Is that what you're finding along your walks? To find that and to calm yourself, because I think that's something you'll always use throughout your life. If you can find that now, you're
Yeah.
going to be able to utilize that throughout your whole life.
I think it's a skill set to sort of maintain a healthy perspective.
Yes.
And when you practice it, you get better at it. And so everything that happens to you, you can sort of look at it in multiple lights, through multiple
Yeah.
different lenses. And so like one of the things that's hard for me, or can be like challenging, is I'll meet really cool people or see really interesting places, and because the scope of what I'm trying to accomplish is so large, the whole country,
Yeah.
I can really only take like a nibble of the culture of an area, or I can only
Yes.
make really good friends, and I can only be there for a day because I have to keep moving if I want to
Yeah.
see everything. And so that's one of the unique struggles I have, is that I constantly have to tear myself away from things that are worth exploring more. But I read a quote from Winnie the Pooh this morning. It said like, how fortunate I am that like I have things that are so valuable that it's hard to say goodbye to them. And so that's what I feel every day, like how fortunate I am to be
Yes.
every day in a place where I want to not have to leave, but I know that there's the other, or things I haven't seen yet that are also going to be worth seeing.
Do you plan how long you spend then ahead of time in a certain area, or
No.
does it depend? You don't.
It's
plan.
all, I don't plan
It's-
anything.
That's,
The only three
Okay.
points I've planned on this journey were my home, because I lived there, Cape Alava, and the West Quaddy Head Lighthouse. I mean, when I was in Montana, I was like, it's getting cold, I should turn. So I walked down through Wyoming and Colorado, Kansas,
Okay.
Oklahoma, Texas. And then when I got there, I was like, I think I'm going to go to Galveston. I've heard it's pretty. And it's all just very random.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
Every
awesome.
every turn is unplanned,
Yeah.
except for the general rule that I'm heading towards Maine.
Okay.
But I meander and I zigzag pretty extensively.
Have you ever been to me?
I think when I was younger, my dad was in the
Okay.
Air Force my whole life. So
Okay.
he was stationed, and my family went with him. But we were on the East Coast in a few places. So I think we did some touring up and down the
Okay.
East Coast.
Yeah, Maine's beautiful.
I'm excited.
Yeah, you'd be excited about Maine. It's gorgeous. And I want to ask you too about your family. Like,
Sure.
where do you have a lot of siblings? Where do you?
There's 6
Where
of
do
us
you-
kids total. So a
Oh, wow. Well,
healthy
that's
size.
beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm 5th. So I've got 2 older brothers, 2
Okay.
older sisters, and a younger brother.
Okay, what do your siblings think about? Are they a little bit jealous maybe, and maybe not telling
I think
you? Do you think that
lately
some of them?
they see a lot of the beauty I post, and
Yeah.
at first it was just such a off the beaten path idea that
Okay.
most of the reaction was just confusion or like, why? Or like, I mean, I gave up a good paying job to make nothing and to live in a tent for, more than a year and a getting close to like a year and a half. And for them at first it was just kind of confusing. Same with my parents, but
Sure.
I think they knew at that point how determined I can be. I don't know, if I get an idea, I don't relinquish it easily, especially not if people are kind of urging me to. That just kind of makes me cling tighter to it. And so they were
Good.
supportive and encouraging me to go out and do whatever this thing was that I felt was important to try.
Yes, because I would think even seeing that's such an amazing thing though. For
Yeah.
them to see that, I'm saying, for you to be doing this. And like you just said, I mean, I don't know, having two boys, I have to tell you, when I've seen their determination, the things that they've already have accomplished, and to have that, like what you're doing, I mean, it's amazing. I think it's much bigger than having what you did have, is what I'm saying, because that it is. I think
Absolutely.
it is. I really do, as a mother. I mean, as much as, I have some compassion for your mom as far as your
Sure.
safety. How can I not? I'm
Yeah,
a mother.
I get you.
I've had my kids say that to me, like, I'm going to hit the road, I'm going to do it, and they've still said it. They might be doing it someday, the walk, I'm going to bike, and I just need to always know they're okay, and
Sure.
that's what I said. Just let me know you're always okay, and go do your journey, do it. But love your determination.
Well, I appreciate it.
I mean, if you can do this, wow. Do you stay in touch with your parents on a regular basis, or do they just kind
Yeah,
of follow
they'll call
it?
periodically, and
Yeah.
then they're in a fortunate place as parents that I post all the time what I'm up to, what I'm seeing, and
Yes.
the kind of experiences I'm having. I think a lot of parents would like to have that sort of insight into their child's life all the time, and so they
Yes.
get to hear a lot about what I'm doing, and then periodically they'll call and I'll get to have some updates on their side as well.
Yeah, and it's a great time in your life to be doing it.
Yeah,
I assume, right? You're single.
that's right. Yeah.
So that's a beautiful time in your life to be doing it.
Yeah, it certainly makes it a lot easier. I mean, it would be tougher
Yes.
if I was leaving behind a whole crew at home.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you know what? There's plenty of jobs out there, right? So I don't think you have to worry about that.
Yeah, I'm not too
whenever
worried
you're
about
ready. I don't
that,
think you have to,
yeah.
I'm just saying. Yeah, and you're young.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
There's always things to do. You figure it out.
That's right.
There's plenty of things out there.
Sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when is the exact? Do you have a planned date of when you'll be done, or no? Then because you're just not.
No, yeah, there's nothing like that. When I first left, I was thinking it was going to be about a year.
Okay.
And so obviously that's gone the way of all the earth. That didn't
Yes,
work out.
because how long exactly now?
I
And how
left
many
May
miles?
13th,
May
2021, and today's August 30th, 2022.
Okay.
So we're looking at almost like 16 months.
Okay.
And yesterday I crossed the 7,500 mile mark. So,
Okay.
I don't know, just one day at a time.
Have you had any moments where have been like scary moments for you? Like
Yeah, a
really
few.
like wow.
Yeah, a couple. Mostly it's not what people think. It's not because like people I feel are unsafe towards me.
Okay.
I think 99% of the risk, and I'm not exaggerating there, isn't from a psycho with a gun or something. It's people in their cars just not paying attention. Because I walk on the road almost always because I like to see the towns. I don't really do trails because
Okay.
it's just miles and miles of you in the woods, and that's fine. But I was always here to see the buildings and the people and their life and watch
Yes.
them going about living their lives. So to do that, you have to pass through the towns. So I'm always walking on roads, and people are
Okay.
on their phones a lot these days, and so that's most of the risk factor. And then there are some places like in Montana and Oregon where you're allowed to walk on the interstate, and that's really the only option if you want to get between some of those towns, just because
Yes.
it's so barren and desolate out there. And so you're legally allowed to walk there, but some of the bridges that you have to cross, there's just nowhere for you to be. And so you just
So they're pretty dangerous.
you just cross your fingers and run, and
Okay.
some tunnels in particular. There's a particular tunnel in Oregon that's the scariest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Really?
Oh yeah, by a factor of like 2 or 3. Yeah, it was on this old scenic Route 30.
Yeah.
And so they built the road and the tunnel that went through the mountain for like Model A and Model T traffic. And now it's holding 18-wheelers passing each other, and there's just nowhere for me to go. Very, very scary.
Wow. Okay. What's your favorite so far? Your favorite area? you've been
And
to?
my favorite, it's a common question, what's your favorite place? Because I've
Yeah.
seen so many. and this is a true answer. It
Okay.
sounds like a
It's
cop
fine.
out,
Yeah.
but it's wherever I am right now
I think that's a great
because I can
answer.
only appreciate what I'm looking at. I mean, you can remember stuff fondly, but
Yes.
no memory is as tangible or as vivid or as clear as like these windows that I'm looking at, or this brick-lined alley, or the people going about their lives right now doing their thing. The sky you're looking at is the only sky you can ever see
Yes.
because it's, I don't know, it's a real like living in the moment kind of thing.
And it should
And it
be.
sounds corny
It
or
doesn't.
like, but I really believe in that.
Yeah, I don't think it sounds corny at all
Yeah.
because you should be in the moment.
All right, so right now my favorite spot in the world is Easton because that's where I
That's
am.
awesome. You're right in the moment. Why else would you be doing it? I think that is beautiful to hear that.
Yeah, it's a perspective that's really built up, you know, over so many months of walking. That,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a sincere thing at this point.
Well, it is, but those are the things I think you're always going to be able to take with you throughout your life that will remind you not to miss out on your life, Isaiah.
Yeah, I think everybody can probably relate to like feeling nostalgic about the past, or just like anticipatory of the future, some promotion or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
But I started to realize as I was walking that I kept getting nostalgic about whatever had just happened, like maybe 3 months ago. There's like a threshold where the nostalgia for 6 months ago kicks in.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it was so nice then. But I realized it kept happening. And I was like, why didn't I just appreciate it when I was there? And if that's true, then I'll just appreciate where I am right now as well.
Okay.
So
That's great.
it's been a lot of fun. And it's been eye-opening and life-changing and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Now, do you have any family through the areas that you've passed through or are going
Yeah.
to be passing through?
A couple of times. I walked
Okay.
to my sister's house in Oregon. And then I've had family come out and meet me.
Oh,
I had
that's cool.
a brother fly out in Washington, another in Louisiana.
Okay.
My mom came out in Wyoming. A sister joined me another place in Washington.
That's
Stuff like that.
nice. That's really nice.
I've run across a lot of cousins that I didn't know very well.
Really?
But I walked into their house in Montana and Virginia and all
Wow.
over the place.
That's amazing.
It's been cool.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is cool.
It's been a lot of fun.
Okay.
Is there anything that you wish you brought with you that you didn't bring?
I want a case for my phone that has a battery pack on it.
Okay.
But other than that, you can really find what you're looking for on the road as well. Like, I remember when I left, my mom's like, how many toothbrushes are you going to need to take with you? And I was like, one. There's Walmarts like in every town.
Exactly.
Once my toothbrush runs out, I'll buy another toothbrush. And so there are things I've gathered as I've gone, and there's things I've gotten rid of as I've gone through. And it's a real iterative process.
What's been like your most, I guess, valued item or used item or something you would suggest? I mean, obviously the tent's very, very handy and
Sure.
things like that, but is there
Yeah.
anything that people might not think of that you have and it's been very helpful for you along your journey so far?
I mean, the phone is probably the thing I use most because I'm always scrolling through Google Maps, but there are definitely a bunch of things that you kind of can't do it without. There was one time in Wyoming where I walked for 98 miles between towns, and in between there was nothing. No houses, nothing. So you need all the water that you're going to take for that 5 days. And so the cart that I push, you can sort of see it in the background there, it carries water, it carries food, it carries a tent and sleeping bag, and there have been moments where I didn't have that with me for whatever reason,
Okay.
and you really feel stuck. You know, like I can't walk for long distance of time because I don't have the support vehicle of my cart. It's not a vehicle, but it
Yes.
does enable this long distance walking
Yeah.
for my kind of style of doing so.
Would you recommend others trying what you're doing, or is it? Would you?
Like long distance walking?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not for everybody. I walk all day, so 16 hours a day-ish of just walking. And some people, I think they'd be like bored, you know. But if this is your mindset and that sounds fun to you and just like it fills you with some sort of anticipatory like excitement, like, oh, I would love to do that, absolutely try. Even if you don't like do it as long as I've done it, like it'll be an experience for sure. And there's different styles of doing it. You could do it with a backpack, you could do it with a cart. It just really depends on what you're going for. But yeah, if you feel the inclination and you want to go for it, I absolutely recommend it wholeheartedly.
I love it. And did you do any type of training beforehand or anything like that, or you just went for it?
No, you just go. I don't know. I mean, don't be unprepared. Bring water. That's an obvious one.
Yeah.
But other than that, I was like, as long as you're going through towns and stuff, don't start in the Mojave Desert and, you know, the worst. But as long as you're just like in your neighborhood,
Yeah.
just go for it, and you'll get thirsty. And you're like, oh, I need a water bottle. And you pop into a 7-Eleven, grab a water bottle, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I think there's a lot of people who overanalyze, and they call it paralysis by analysis. You'll learn 10 to 20 times faster, like what you need and what turns out you thought might be a concern but really wasn't, just by doing it.
I like it.
So don't be foolish, but there is something a bias towards like motion and a bias towards starting that I think is healthy.
And I have 2 more questions here before we wrap up. So my other question was, has there been days where you're like, I don't want to do this right now? And like, if so, what I guess gets you going? What's like that motivation still to just, keep going and not just stay there for an extra day or extra 2 days?
Yeah, there have definitely been moments. I can recollect a few of them that were particularly strong, and some of them I've recorded on my YouTube channel. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, sometimes I'll be walking along and I'm just not there for whatever reason. The fire that is generally true, and like my enthusiasm that's generally really actually a thing, it just isn't there for the moment for whatever reason. And then I'll walk around a corner and I've been like in some woods, and it'll open up and I'll see the sun going down, and all of a sudden it's back. And I'm just like, this is the coolest thing anybody could ever do with their time. And some of them are like very unintentional like that. Something just happened to me. A lot of times it's meeting someone. Like I was walking through, just not too long ago, Souderton, and I was sitting on a bench and I was just kind of out of it a little bit, and this guy walks up and he goes, can I just like bother you for a sec? Like, this is so cool. And he was actually the mayor of Souderton. He was just a nice guy. And he was the kind of fellow where we could just sort of get into the trip, and we talked a little bit about it, and the sun started going down and it started playing these shadows along the buildings, and it just fixed it, snapped me out of it. But sometimes it's a very intentional choice. It'll last like 2 or 3 days, and just being in motion helps for whatever reason. But other than that, you just have to realize that emotions are like a roller coaster. They go up and down, and I've had it happen enough times where I've sort of lost the fire, but I've waited for a day or two. I don't want to make a rash decision and call off what has been so profoundly impactful and beautiful on just like a spur of the moment negative emotion. Just you just wait for a couple days, and all of a sudden you're walking along and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I feel better. Like I forgot that I wasn't into it for like a couple days, and the last couple days have been great. I don't know. You just have to come to an appreciation that it'll pass. And as long as you remember those moments where it was really, really impactful, really life-altering and changing, and there have been moments where I'm just walking down the road, and all of a sudden all the traffic will clear for miles, and I just don't see any cars. Or I walked in Wyoming like through most of the night one time just because it was so empty out there, and I could hear the sound of my tires rolling along the asphalt, and the sun went down, but it was a warm October night, and I could see all the stars, and I was like, this is like, it like moves you almost to tears. You're like, this is the most beautiful thing. Like, this is a surreal moment. Everybody should do this with their life at one point, like be in a place like this by themselves, wearing just a hoodie, and it's like the perfect amount of warmth, and just walking along and hearing the coyotes in the distance. And there are moments like that, and I've had hundreds if not thousands of them, just like moments where it all just makes sense. Like, yes, this is a very, very good decision, and I'm so happy I did it.
That's amazing. I love hearing. Yeah, I love hearing you say that.
Yeah, there are moments where it's just it's so
Sounds
perfect.
so peaceful.
Yeah, and like and then sometimes you'll be walking along, and someone will just pull over, and they're just so excited about what you're doing, and they're just so eager to help you in any way they can, and they eventually leave, and you're just like, oh, people are so good. There's just so much beauty out there, and it's just everywhere. If you look for it, it's there.
It is.
Yeah, and most people have that in them, and to be the kind of person who just like will unlock that for them for 10 minutes, or where they just have this pure enthusiasm for life. I remember in Delaware, a lady pulled over, and she had her son with her, and her son was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11, and I think he had Down syndrome, is most likely what it looked like he had, but he was just so pure, and he was so excited to see this guy that he'd found on YouTube, or I can't remember how they found me, but Yeah, well, they left, and for the rest of the day, I was just kind of on a high.
Oh, I bet you were.
Yeah, like to be that kind of person who can make someone who's so without guile be so happy is a real privilege.
Yes. That's good. I'm glad you know it.
Yeah, it's not, you don't always remember that, but I have had it happen often enough
I bet.
where you're just you're very grateful for the existence
Yeah.
you live.
Well, I'm sure you're making it happen even more so too, that you don't even know it. So.
Yeah, I hope so.
Oh, I'm
It's a
sure
good
you
thought.
are, Isaiah. Did you build your cart? I'm just curious.
It's a product
Did
you
you?
can buy, but I put up
And
all the
then you
signage.
probably customized it. It's cool.
Yeah, I got pulled over a lot by police who just thought I had
Oh,
like a
really?
baby in there, or maybe I was going around
Like
stealing
they wanna
people's.
check your card. Okay.
Yeah, and then so they see the sign and they see the tags, and I have like QR codes you can scan that take you to my social media channels, and that sort of helps them quickly realize I have all this mountain of evidence that I'm not psycho, or at least not in the
Yeah,
way
right.
they're thinking.
Okay.
But I'm harmless, and I'm just
You are.
trying to capture beauty and show it to people and show people what the world's really
I'm
like.
so glad you are.
Yeah.
I'm really,
So that's what
I'm
all the
so-
signage is for.
Yeah, I'm so glad you are, because like I said, I see that you are really showing people, and you're reminding even people of that, the beauty in their own backyards and around the corner, even from in their
Yeah.
very own
Yeah.
hometowns. And I just love that, because people don't sometimes even realize what's in their own hometown. And
Yeah.
that is awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that comment a lot. It's been one of the most gratifying lately.
Yeah.
Throughout all of Delaware, a lot of people were following along, and that was a comment I heard a lot. They're like, "Man, I've always thought Delaware was like, I'm like so excited to go on vacation elsewhere." And they're like, all these places you've shown me in my home state that I've never taken the time to go to. That's a pretty gratifying response.
I would love for you to tell everybody where they can find you, like your YouTube channel, anywhere.
Yeah, so my YouTube channel, here I'll grab my hat.
Okay, go ahead and grab it.
My YouTube channel is called You Do You, looks like that, spelled out. And then I post a lot on Facebook these days. It's Isaiah Glen Shields. But if you go to my YouTube channel, some of the videos will have like the links, and you can find it
Okay.
through there.
Okay.
So, but most of these days I post on Facebook, probably the most, just because
Yeah.
for whatever reason at the moment, that's where the audience is sort of
Yes,
following along.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
So works for me. We're gonna keep following you,
I
and I just
appreciate it.
really hope that you just stay safe and just enjoy the journey.
I try. Yeah, that's the
Okay?
quest.
You're doing a good job, Isaiah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for
It's
your
really good to
time.
meet you. Thanks for
It
coming
is
out.
awesome
Pleasure.
to meet you. Okay.